or rather I would like to thank you for coming to our press conference, Movement for Democratic Change. My name is Khupe. I'm the deputy spokesperson for the party. With me today here, I have Dr. Khupe, whom we all know, the acting president for the party. I have in my immediate right the national chairperson, Honorable Komichi. On the right of the president, I have Honorable Mudziri, the deputy national chairperson. And on his right, I have the famous Secretary General, Honorable Mwonzora. Madam President is going to give us a short statement. Thereafter, the Secretary General will give us a statement, and then we should be able to take your questions. Thank you so much, Madam President. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the media. Good afternoon, our members. First of all, I would like to say that I would like to thank you very much for coming to this very important press briefing. This is our first meeting as a standing committee after the Supreme Court ruling, which took us back to the 14th of February after the demise of our great president, Dr. Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. May his soul rest in eternal peace. As the MDC team, we were founded on the foundation of constitutionalism. We are founded on the foundation of democracy. We are founded on the foundation of non-discrimination. We are founded on the foundation of non-violence. And we met here today as a leadership to say, let us reflect back on what happened and let us correct our mistakes, because in life, it is important that when you make a mistake, you must admit you have made a mistake, but use those mistakes as a stepping stone to success. As you can see, we are gathered here today. These are the founding members of the MDC team. And I would also like to allude to the fact that most of the members you are seeing here are the real founders from ZCTU. I'm one of those people, together with Honorable Gifchin Manikire and Honorable Pauline Pariwa, who were tasked by the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions to go and form a political party, together with Gibson Spanda, together with Isaac Matongo, together with our late President Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, together with Nicholas Nzengerere, together with Remas Makuwaza. But the 5 have already departed, and the 3 are sitting here today in front of us. We have got the national chairman, who is a former member of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions in Matebele North. We have got the Secretary General. He was the legal research officer at ZCTU. We have got Abednego Bebe, the organizing secretary, who was a member of the Zimbabwe Amalgamated Railwaymen's Union in Bulawayo. We have got Honorable Mpariwa. She was the chairperson of the Women's Advisory Council, ZCTU, and I was the secretary of the ZCTU Women's Advisory Council. We've got Gifchi Manikire, who was the president of PTC. So the people you are seeing here today are the founder members of the movement. But unfortunately, so many things happened before, but we are here today to correct those mistakes. And I would like to say the MDCT, is here today. We are standing. We are now up, on our toes, up on our feet. We are standing and we are raring to go. We want to make sure that Zimbabweans have a better life. Our desire as the opposition is to make sure that we are an opposition which is going to build. We are an opposition which is going to make sure that Zimbabweans have a better life. We want to make sure that we become a government in waiting for real. We want the people of Zimbabwe to see us through our actions. Right now, we've got COVID-19, which has devastated the whole nation. And as MDCT, we are saying we want to be a responsible leadership, a leadership which is going to make sure that we work together as a nation so that we fight this scourge called coronavirus. And that's why we called our members of parliament to make sure that they attend parliament so that they are able to deal with all the issues to do with coronavirus. People want food out there. People want a better life. And this can only happen when people sit around a table, when members of parliament go to parliament to raise those particular issues. But I would like to say to every Zimbabwean, to say as the official opposition, we are here to serve you. We are here to work for you. We will make sure that we do everything in our power. And we have retained back to our values, to our founding values and principles of the MDC. And we are going to make sure that whatever we do it based on our founding values, on our founding principles as a movement. So this is the leadership that is here. And we called you so that you know that we are here at the Morgan Richard Tsvangirai house today. We are now working from the Morgan Richard Tsvangirai house. And this is the leadership which is going to be making sure that we take this country forward, we build our nation so that every Zimbabwean has a better life. I will hand over to the Secretary General so that he takes you through on the issues that we discuss as a standing committee. Over to you, Secretary General.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and the members of the National Standing Committee. I would like to start with the co-optations that happened today to the leadership. As you know, some of the leaders left the party to form their own political party. So in terms of the constitution, certain positions have to be approved by the National Council, certain positions have to be appointed where there is a gap. And the following have been appointed into the National Standing Committee in terms of Clause 9 of our Constitution. Engineer Elias Mudziri, Senator Mudziri, is the Deputy National Chairperson. Honorable Chimanikire, Gift Chimanikire, the Deputy National Organizing Secretary. As you know, Honorable Abednego Bebe is here and is the National Chairperson. Deputy Treasury, National Organizing Secretary. Deputy Treasurer General, again, that position is vacant, and it is now being occupied by Chief Ndlovu. Chief Ndlovu was the provincial chairperson for the South African province for the 2014 structures. The Deputy National Spokesperson, Honorable Kalipani Pugen, is now the Deputy National Spokesperson. And the chairperson for the Youth Assembly, as you know, Mr. Moji Dziwa of Bondo, is publicly stated that he is no longer a member of the party. So his deputy has taken over as the chairperson of the National Youth Assembly. It is a good surprise, ladies and gentlemen. I can anticipate that. And that person is Shakespeare Mokoi. Our Secretary for Elections is Mr. Manasa Changrai, the young brother to our icon. We will be making some other announcement as we get clarity on where various officers stand. But these are appointments. Oh, yes. The Deputy National Secretary for Elections is Honorable Gandhi Mudzingwa, a long-time veteran of this struggle. There is a position that we will announce later regarding the women once we have resolved that. Some of the resolutions that we dealt with today, number one, dealt with Harvest House. Whose property is it? We saw in the court some people claiming that the Harvest House belonged to them. We reiterate that the Harvest House belongs to the Movement for Democratic Change as a party. And we will do everything that is in our power to safeguard our property. So there are matters that are before the courts, but we want to make it clear that the Harvest House or Morgan Tsvangirai House is not a private property owned by a company. It is owned by, it is a property and we will be able to prove that when the time comes in the course of law. We also resolve that we are going to fulfill the Supreme Court judgment. And the Supreme Court was very kind to us in dealing with the document that is now called the settled document as the Constitution of the Movement for Democratic Change. That's number one. Number two, nullification of the Supreme Court of the presidency of Advocate Nelson Chamisa and everything that he did in his capacity as president. That includes signing agreements with other people. All that is nullified. We also discussed the issue of the recalls of councillors as well as members of parliament who have joined other political parties. We are going to proceed with this, but we will deal with this on a case-by-case basis. And as we have said and maintained before, we are not a vindictive leadership. We are not there simply to cause misery to people. We are there to safeguard the interests of the members of the MDC. So those who have joined other political parties cannot continue to represent our members in parliament. We want to reiterate here that the Supreme Court, the High Court, ruled that we can continue with our recalls. In other words, the interdict that sought to stop us from recalling was dismissed by Justice Chitapi. They've appealed against it, but they are appealing against nothing because they did not have the order in the first place. Then the other judgment by Justice Mafusire to say that we cannot replace members of parliament even after the even as we face the expiry of the mandatory 90 days. We have appealed against that judgment. The effect of the appeal is to suspend the decision appealed against. And therefore, as things stand, nothing stops us from recalling our members of parliament and replacing our members of parliament. And we will exercise, if need be, we will exercise that lawful option. We received a report on the takeover of Morgan Tsvangirai House. And this has been a subject of a lot of propaganda. Which has unfortunately sucked in some of the countries in this world because of the images that were broadcast by our colleagues. But this is what took place. The Harvest House on the 4th of June 2020 and at 5 o'clock experienced a handover takeover which involved security guards at this building. So 3 people came in, new security guards came in to relieve the 2 who were on duty. So they signed the handover takeover in a book that we call the occurrence book. This is the book that is at the reception where we record the handover takeover. It was smooth and it was without incident. And we reiterate that Advocate Nelson Chamisa was informed of that occurrence. That is why in my statement of that day, I referred to him, I referred to the letter that had been written by the acting president to him and specifically referred to him. In all the court papers, he did not file any papers to dispute that. So there was a smooth handover, takeover. Then after about 3 hours, I issued the statement. And after 3 hours after the statement, around 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, Charlton Wende and Denford Ngadzwore and 45 thugs came to this building and tried to enter the building via the back door. They broke the door at the back, and the police who were on patrol intervened and called for reinforcement. We view it as malicious to suggest that the takeover of this building involved the army and the police. The army has been patrolling the streets of Harare since the declaration of the lockdown. And I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to take judicial notice of the fact that 60 meters from where we are, towards Parliament, you will see offices of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. So the army does have its offices in this street, about 60 meters from where we are. And of course, when the noise was generated, they were naturally attracted by that, but they specifically refused to intervene in the dispute. And this was confirmed by the employees of Harvest House who took us to court. Washington Gaga, Zvavamwe Shambare, Kudakwashe Matibiri, Edith Munyaka, and others. They took us to court, and they specifically said that the police refused to intervene in the takeover of Harvest House. That is in their affidavit. They also said the army refused to intervene. And these are the affidavits that are before the courts of law. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be announcing, following the resignation of Honorable Obed Gutu, we will be announcing our spokesperson in due course after the consultations have taken place. We also discussed the petition that came from certain members of the National Council who wanted us to hold an emergency National Council. And our attitude is that we will hold the National Council once the circumstances permit gatherings involving these big numbers, because the National Council is 202 people. So we will hold the meeting of the National Council. The President will instruct us regarding the dates once we have received information about the gatherings. So we are going to have that meeting. We are not in a hurry to have that meeting because we had a meeting of the National National Council virtually on the 9th of May. And this meeting had made far-reaching decisions. But should members of the party want their leaders to conduct another meeting, we are open. We want to have this meeting, and we will announce the date in due course. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Movement for Democratic Change, as our President has said, we are now going to be embarking on the reform agenda. As you remember, the party had been on the reform trajectory with the formation of the National Election Reform Agenda under President Changirai, the demonstrations that we held for electoral reforms. These had been packed in the issue of electoral reforms, social reforms, economic reforms, political reforms. They had all been shelved. We are now going to embark on the reform process, on the reform agenda. And we are going to be discussing with other political parties. In the standing committee, the President gave a report of the meeting that we had with the alliance partners. As you know, some time ago, I think 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting of 5 out of the 7 alliance partners. And this meeting was to discuss the future of the alliance. We did not conclude on this discussion, and we were supposed to carry the discussion on the 13th of June. Again, we couldn't because of certain logistical reasons. But we are committed to working with others. We are committed to creating synergies. The President and other senior leaders will be meeting leaders of civic society to brief them on what is happening within the party, to brief them on how we are bringing the party back to the rails. As you know, the party had been derailed and so on. So we want to bring back a leadership and a new politics that is based on rational disputation, and a new politics that abhors violence, use of hate language, and so on. A new politics that looks at the lives of the poor Zimbabwean people, that looks at the lives of the disadvantaged advantaged masses of Zimbabwe. And the leadership said in the meeting that we are going to go back to the founding objectives of the MDC. And the founding objective is one, and it was to fulfill the unfinished business of the liberation struggle. And this is what this leadership has committed itself to be doing. And I have to let you into various things that the leadership said, and so on. The need for tolerance, an apology that was given by my young brother Shakespeare to the president, and that was quite touching. And we are very grateful at the level of maturity displayed by Shakespeare in that regard. And please, we want everybody to join us in thanking him for what he has done. And I've been talking to him. He is very focused on the objective of this struggle, and you'll be seeing more and more of him as he leads his youth assembly in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end here regarding the resolutions that we had today, and would want to invite questions. Sorry, Pugen, sorry, you can take off. Sorry.
All right. Okay, we came out here just to attend to you because you've been waiting for some time. We had to finish our meeting. So I'm going to take 1 or 2 rounds quickly so that we can be able to go off your questions.